part of your process was you invited Tim Couch to be to be part of it. When did you decide to do that? And talk about what he did, what his role in the process was.
Tim's clearly a guy that goes around the college landscape in doing games for Fox, and so he was out there. Initially, he and I just talked. I just called him. I called him one day, and I said, "Hey, if we were to make a move and change directions, what's your thoughts? What does it look like to you for Kentucky football to be successful? What's it look like?" And I said, "Give me your thoughts." And I said, "You've been watching this a long time." I said, as a citizen of the state, as a guy that played in the program, and a guy that's looked at it from the viewing of a commentator, what's that look like? And so we had a really nice conversation about that, and then he, I said, "I'd like to have you after a certain spot sit in on some of these conversations just to hear what some of these guys are saying, and then give me a little feedback." And so he was great. He was, I'm very appreciative of. He was very. I told him on the front end. I said, you leak a word to this to anybody that you're involved, I said, you're out.
You don't like leaks.
And no, I don't.
Yeah.
And so he was very, very confidential. I was very appreciative of the way he was very professional about it, and I think it opened his eyes as to how difficult these processes are and how complicated they are, because there's so many moving pieces. And I think he saw it firsthand, and I think he was a little surprised. But at the same time, he was great. He asked some very specific football questions that he wanted to know, and got answers, and I think that was helpful in our process.
I'm impressed with how well, speaking of leaks, how well you did keep it under wraps. I mean, you interviewed on your timeline Stoops, and it's 2 weeks later before that even got, I think, before Bruce Feldman even was reported that he had been interviewed. Mm-hmm. Did you think keeping this dead silent was not only what you wanted to do, but was important to the process?
I think so, because what you don't want to, I think for a lot of reasons, to respect the people that are in the process with you, those folks that really want to be a part of what you're doing will respect your process. If they are trying to use, there's two pieces. Sometimes coaches get used in the process because you want to say you talk to them so you can get them away from you, and that's not fair to them. If you're genuinely not interested in having them be a part, if you're not genuinely interested in maybe talking, it's wrong to use them as an interview. I think that's totally wrong. The flip side of that is if there's a coach on the other side and he is using you to go do something else, I think that's wrong. Mm-hmm. So what you want to get to is people that are genuine in their approach to the process. And that may be completely idealistic on my part, but I felt like we had 5 to 6 guys in there that were genuine in their desire to talk to us about the Kentucky job. And I was appreciative of that. And then you begin to say, okay, that person is disingenuous, and he is not really, he's used, whatever. And so you get to that spot. And so I was thankful for the folks that we had in the process. And, I forget where I was going with it.
That's all right.
I think that's where we are.
I just got a couple minutes left, so let me switch gears for you a little bit to the future. Everybody who listens to the show knows we've talked a lot about it over the last 6 months, football facilities, renovations to Commonwealth, et cetera. Mm-hmm. I know you can't talk specifics yet, although I think that's coming probably pretty soon about what the plans are, et cetera. Mm-hmm. But for fans listening, easy question. You think this gets done this time?
Well, there's two things. One, my frustration is twofold. One, people act like we've never done anything for Kentucky football.
Yeah.
And that's total garbage. What people don't see is all the things we have done for the players behind the scenes. Whether it's meeting rooms and locker rooms and fields and investment, those kind of things. What people don't see is the stadium stuff.
Couch actually told me on that remark, it's night and day just even from when he was there. Right.
So in 1999 was the last time we did a stadium renovation. And that's what people get. They look and they say, well, they did something in their stadium. They did something in their stadium. We put $8 million into scoreboards and no one even blinked at it. Oh, so what? That was a so what conversation. That's a little bit of a frustration for me. That's my issue, no one else's. So people would say, hey, bloody, be frustrated, whatever. They don't care. So that's fine. But here's the deal. There are things we want to do for two things. One, we've got to make sure that the fan experience is what the fans want it to be. in terms of making it really a cool thing to come to Commonwealth Stadium. And so it takes away the 90-inch big screen television at home where you've got the refrigerator just down the hall. We got to make sure that there's
That's a big issue, isn't it?
It's a major issue because college football attendance is down this year significantly. For the first time, it's trending the wrong way even in our league, in spots in our league where
where people are winning.
That's where that's never been an issue, correct. So we've got to make sure that we don't put ourselves at risk in terms of a bad fan experience. I'm not talking about the product on the field. We got to take care of that. We know that. But even where there's good product on the field, there are fan attendance numbers going down. We've got to make sure that we do two things. One, make sure that there's an experience on the field that is good. And two, what we wrap around it is something that fans say, you know what, that feels pretty good to me when I walk in the stadium. So we got to do that. And two, the other thing, and more important than one, is making sure that our players have a competitive environment that they can get better in, whether that is making sure our weight room is everything it needs to be, our medical facility is everything it needs to be, and that our players, when they walk in, they don't necessarily go, oh, my gosh, wow, but they at least say, okay, boy, this is really good, and we're okay. What we have is good. We'd like to make it great. And so sooner rather than later, absolutely. And we're moving very, very aggressively to try and get those things done. And I will say that our president has been extremely supportive of Kentucky football and the things that we're trying to get done. What that timeline is, Matt, I don't know, but I do believe.
But we do know. I mean, the major stadium renovation. I mean, I'm sure it has to do with suites and it has to do with the press box and all that stuff. But you got to get a new restroom in that press box, if nothing else. Yeah. You don't care if we sit on napkins. I understand. But in all seriousness, that's a big thing, and it's going to require bonding, approval from the state, et cetera. I think most people know. I mean, we've had politicians come on here and talk about it. They expect a proposal this time. I know you can't talk specifics, but just in your own mind, do you feel like this is the year? I mean, you all have tried before and gotten kind of shot down. Do you feel like this is the year?
I don't know. I don't know timelines. I do know this. I think that we've got a moment in time for Kentucky football. We've got some enthusiasm going with Mark, which I think
that helps.
Is very helpful to us. We've got some players coming back at some positions that are helpful to us. We've got some quarterbacks. I think we can wrap that offense around them and give it a shot. I think we have a window in time to make a run at this thing, and I don't want to miss that window.
I got you. Real quick before we let you go, when Kentucky fans, I sense an optimism that I haven't sensed. I've had Oscar Combs said to me he hasn't sensed this much optimism since when they hired Bill Curry coming right off a national championship game 20 years ago. I was a kid then, but I do. It's the most since I can remember. Feeling that, do you feel like this process went exactly as good as you could have hoped?
Well, that's not for me to gauge. I don't ever, and again, I don't go to bed at night worrying about, oh my gosh, what do they think of me today?
Well, let me ask you on that particular thing.
Yeah.
Because I think this is something your critics will harp on one thing you said, and I want to give you a chance to respond to it. Your critics will harp on that. I think it was before the Vandy game. You said something like it was a microwave society, or I've never actually heard the thing, so I don't know the specific thing you said. But I that gets brought up to me all the time. First of all, maybe you can tell since we've never heard the audio what you said, but what did you mean by that, and did that bother you? Because I know a lot of fans harped on that.
It's not so much what, and I don't think what people, when I say, and I don't even remember what I said, but I think the premise of it is everything is sped up in today's culture. Everything. We want success, and we want it today.
Yeah.
And we're used to be in this business. A coach had 4 to 6 years to be able to get it done. Now they've got about 2. And if they don't get it done in 2, the fans are on to the next deal. And they want the next guy. And I'm not it's not critical of Kentucky fans. It is a culture in fans in general. It's where we are. And we got to accept it. We understand it. And part of it's based on what we're doing right here. We're in talk radio. We've got internet, and also, and it fuels
makes things quicker.
It makes the speedometer go faster.
Yeah.
And that's just that's what it is. There's no changing that. That's the culture that we're in. It's not a shot at any one of our fans. It's just where we are. So that was the premise on that conversation. And I don't I don't worry about, again, what critics say about me. What my responsibility is to making sure that the first thing, if we do the things that we do within the framework of our student athletes and our coaches, and we give them best chance, we're going to put a product out there that will hopefully be representative of what Kentucky fans want, and you got to respect the processes in these things. And what we can't do is short-circuit processes and take a shortcut, because you take shortcuts, you will get beat. Eventually, it may get a quick fix, or you may get something really quick, and it'll be gone before you know it, or something will have gone wrong to get you there. You got to respect processes in this thing, and that's hard for all of us to do as individuals. It's hard for me to do that, and let alone when you've got 75,000 people or 70,000 people trying to get into a stadium, and you got a state that wants a football program to be better, like we all do. This is something I think, and I get the emails, he doesn't care about football. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me.
Well, your athletic department can't run if football isn't making money.
And on top of that, everywhere I've ever been, football has been successful. And even at Oregon State, where they said you'll never, ever get it out there, it's going pretty good out there. And it was when we started it out there and it grew. It can happen. If it can happen there, it happens at Kansas State. You look at the places that they've taken products that they said could never win, and they've done it, and we can do it here.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on here, and also I give you a lot of credit for that whole process. A lot of pressure on you. You did it your way, and I think I've never seen the fans more excited. So congratulations to you on that, and thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks, Matt.